Home-labbing and self-hosting can be awesome. Being able to host apps for your friends and family to use is a big upside of this. You can cut down on subscription costs, you can build custom solutions if you need to, and you also learn a lot in the process. However, one of the downsides of doing this is that you're responsible for providing all of the tech support if something goes wrong. If a family member has trouble setting something up, one of your services go down, or something is wrong with configuration, you're responsible for fixing it. Unfortunately, we can't just rely on a team of tech support people to help us with our home labs all of the time. More likely than not, someone is going to message you when they run into issues with one of your applications that you're hosting for them. This problem is exaggerated if your user skill set lies in an area outside of being a mega nerd. One of the ways to solve this problem is actually through another self-hosted app. I know, but hear me out. I've created a one-stop shop manual that provides guides and tutorials on how to use all of the services that I'm hosting. I'm using BookStack to host all of this information, making it accessible to anyone who has access to my applications so that they have a place to go to try to solve their own issue or set up their own problems before they reach out directly to me. Often used as a wiki, BookStack is a simple, self-hosted, easy-to-use platform for organizing and storing information. It is very easy to set up, maintain, and use. What makes it good for you, the savvy self-hoster, is some thoughtful and powerful features like OpenID for SSL login, multi-factor authentication, built-in drawing and diagramming tools, and an entire system for managing roles and users. What makes it good for your end users is that it's so easy to use and absolutely everything is searchable, making it very easy to find what they're looking for. Content is organized in this hierarchy: shelves, books, chapters, and pages. For my use case, I have a book called the General Manual, where each chapter in this book goes through a different service, and the pages in those chapters are different tutorials that I have set up for my end users. For example, let's take a look at my Jellyfin chapter. Most of the pages in here are guides so that the end user can download and set up Jellyfin on their own devices. Whether it's a TV, iOS, in a browser, there's a guide for it in here. My philosophy for creating these guides was to make it as easy as possible for a non-technical end user to be able to set up these services. Using this philosophy has helped my technical writing abilities as well as proven useful to the end user who no longer needs to contact me about something simple like setting up a service. To this end, in each section, I have three things. One, an introduction that briefly introduces what that page is about. Two, a set of prerequisites like devices or other software configuration that needs to be done first. I have it linked to other guides in the event that they're necessary. And third, a list of instructions complete with detailed written guide and images so that it's very easy for the user to go through this whole process without asking me a single question. By the way, I'll have markdown templates of any of the instructions and guides that I've written available in my GitHub in the description down below, completely for free if you want to use them for your home lab. I'll do my best to keep the templates updated when I write new ones or make changes to any of the existing ones. While my handbook is currently on the smaller side, that is going to change in the future. I have just barely started making some of these services available to end users. So as I add new services or encounter some questions that get frequently asked, I can create new pages to document those to help end users. If needed, you can even scale up the number of chapters that you have when you add new services or add FAQ sections in each chapter after you learn what users tend to struggle with. And if you ever needed to, you could even create multiple books for different types of users on your platform. You also aren't limited at all to using BookStack just as an instruction guide for your home lab services. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people use it to self-host their own wikis. You can use it to document the hardware and software configurations of your home lab. Heck, you could even use it for note-taking if you really wanted to. The point is that BookStack solved a crucial point of friction in my home lab journey before it got too out of hand. With the use case of BookStack out of the way, let's move on to actually configuring and setting up your own BookStack instance. I'll be running through this tutorial as if you were using Unraid because that is what I use, but I will also link in the description down below official documentation for other methods of installation. Before actually installing the BookStack container, we are going to need to get an instance of MariaDB first. This is the database structure that BookStack uses to store all of its information. As is the case with installing most apps on Unraid, the first thing we're going to do is go to the app section, search for the MariaDB official one, and click install on the official container. I recommend renaming this container to make it easy to tell that this MariaDB instance is meant specifically for BookStack. Just in the event that you have, or will have in the future, multiple instances of MariaDB for other services. You want to make sure that the port is uncontested. What I do to make sure that happens is I just hit the cdocker allocations at the bottom of the page and do a Control F search to see if the default is taken. If the default isn't taken, you can just leave it like that. If it is taken, then you'll just need to find a port on your server that is open and then use it here. Leave generate random password set to yes and give your database a name, user, and password. Make sure you remember those three things or save them somewhere safe. Make sure that your data and config files go to a directory that is good for your setup. I just keep everything in app data, and then hit apply when you're done and wait for the container to start successfully, and then once again hit the done button. Now it's time for installing BookStack. As before, go to the apps and then search for BookStack. You want to hit install on the BookStack version from Linux server. Again, first step is to make sure that the web UI port is open. So do the Control F, search for the default. If it is open on your server, awesome. If it isn't, just find one that is. Next up is the app URL. If you are not exposing this to the internet, simply set it to the IP address of your server and the web UI port that you just set. So in my case, it would be 192.168.0.246:6876. If you If you are exposing this to the internet via a Cloudflare tunnel or a reverse proxy or something like that, then set it to the URL that it will be accessible at. Now the app key. You can follow the instructions in the description of this variable, but for some reason I was running into issues with it. The point here is that you just need a randomly generated key to keep track of your sessions. You can create this in something like a password manager, or you can go to a place like randomgenerate.org to create it. I'll leave this link in the description to that website down below to create your own app ID if you need to. Now we need to connect to the database that we just set up, that MariaDB instance. DB host is the IP address of your database, and the DB port is the port that you set. If you don't remember these or didn't write them down, simply go back to the Docker page of your Unraid instance and you will find them in the LAN IP port section of your Docker page for that instance. In my case, the host is 192.168.0.246 and my port is 3307. DB username is the username that you set up when you're creating MariaDB, and shocker, DB password is also the password that you set up in the MariaDB instance. The same goes for DB database, which is just the name that you gave your MariaDB instance. Once all of your variables are set, go ahead and hit apply. Once everything is done setting up, I recommend putting your BookStack and MariaDB instances in a folder together. I use the Folder View 2 plugin, and you can learn more about that in a video I did up here. If everything was configured correctly, you should be able to access the web UI by clicking on the icon and then hitting web UI. Once you get to the web UI, BookStack will walk you through its default or automatic login for initial setup. From this point on, the world is your oyster. Configure it however you like for whatever use case you are using. Again, I'll leave the templates to the way that I'm doing it in a GitHub linked below. I'll also leave some guides to things like setting up BookStack with Authentic for SSO and configuring email and webhooks. I hope you found this video helpful and entertaining. I also hope that you were able to get everything working the way that you needed to. If you found this helpful, please consider subscribing as well as giving a like to this video so that you can see more of this content in the future. Also, let me know what you're using BookStack for. Is it just an instruction manual for your Homelab, or are you doing something a little bit more interesting? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.